The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, one and all. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. To find out what we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit www.xzbn.net. And for the information on the X Zone TV channel on SimulTV, visit www.simultv.com. My guest this hour is Michael Robartes. He leads Scientific Paranormal, a paranormal investigation team in the Atlantic Paranormal Society family. A long-time explorer of unexplained phenomena, he knows what eyewitnesses go through and helps them integrate their experiences into the worldview. Robartes lives in New York between the Adirondack Park, and the Canadian border. The website is rabbitholeexperience.com. Michael, welcome to the X Zone.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rob. Thanks for having me across the border.
Yeah. I used to live very close to the Adirondacks on the south shore of Montreal, so we used to go there a lot of the times and enjoy the beautiful mountain scenery. What is the Rabbit Hole Experience? That's not only the name of your book, but it's also, how would you explain it?
Well, this is a term that my co-author Paul Conroy and I came to use. I'm a paranormal investigator. Paul is a Bigfoot investigator. And we've spent a lot of time in the field together. I'm interested in the Bigfoot phenomenon as well. So he and I spend a lot of time pursuing that out in the woods. And over the years, we've kind of spent a lot of time comparing our cases, the different clients that we've met and people that we've tried to help. And one thing that we noticed was the impact that these experiences had on people. And this term, the rabbit hole experience, that we started using was a term to sort of designate an experience where people sort of come face to face with something that they had previously thought was impossible or is not real. We all sort of go through our lives and draw these lines between what we think is real or not real. And occasionally someone will run into one of those things that's supposed to be on the other side of that line. And it's the impact that has on them that's really the topic of the book that we wrote.
So how or why do people react differently when they do fall down this rabbit hole?
Well, I think a lot of it comes from what they bring to the experience. So in our book, we talk about different reactions that we've seen our clients have, and we illustrate each of them with a case study that we've dealt with. But a lot of it comes down to the beliefs that people have when they go into the experience, and sort of whatever experience they have, like how much disturbance does that cause in their beliefs? How many things is that tied to, and how tightly are they hanging on to their previous beliefs? And it seems like the more tightly people are trying to hang on to their old version of reality, probably the more trouble they're going to have.
Share with us, if you could, some of the investigations that you yourself have conducted in the paranormal.
Well, geez, some of them are in the book, but we've done, I don't know, someday I'll have to go back and dig the files out and check them, but probably, well over 100, between 100 and 200 cases maybe over the course of the years. And, we've done battleships, we've done forts, we've done old theaters, and that's on top of just all the residential cases we do, which is the majority of it.
Is there any one case that stands out in your mind amongst the others?
Probably one of the ones that will always stick out in my mind, and it's a case that we talk about in the book. I call it Four Apartments case in the book. It was a building that was divided into 4 apartments, and we got called in because the family there said that their son was seeing and hearing a little girl at night, that she would come into his room and jump up and down on the bed and play with him and whatnot. And they didn't really mind that until some disturbing things started happening. Like the child claimed that this girl, who we called Katie, was telling him to do things like hurt his sister and things like that. And so they called us in to see if there was any truth to this, and of course they're hoping that we say no. And we got there, and before we had even gotten our equipment set up, we could hear this little girl's voice. I mean, you couldn't tell where it was coming from, but normally we catch EVPs, right, electronic voice phenomena. That's pretty common, that you catch voices on recorders or something like that, but it's not all that common that you can hear them when you're actually there. And this was like right out loud, that everybody could hear it. And I tell the story about that case to some extent in the book. There's a lot more to the story, of course, but turns out that the child was absolutely right. There was a girl spirit there. We don't know what she was doing there, because really from what we knew about the building's history, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. But that was what we caught, and we went back to that place several times, at least 3 or 4 times, and could hear her every time and caught all kinds of other activity, and it was really a strange place.
Why, in your opinion, after investigated so many cases, are some people more prone to experiencing paranormal phenomenon than others? Why would this child have had the experience and maybe not another child?
I think that, at least in our experience, children seem to be more sensitive to it, or maybe more open is the way to look at it. And it definitely, for some reason, it seems to be right around the age of 3. Lots of times we get calls from families, and they'll say their child is telling them they see this person walking around, and we'll ask, how old is the child? And it's generally right around, 3, 4, something like that. But outside of children, I think people are just different in their sensitivities, just like some people have allergies or whatever. It's, a certain sort of resonance or something. And you can have a building that's super haunted, but it could be that one person goes in there and experiences all kinds of things, and then somebody else goes in there and nothing happens.
I would imagine that it all depends on your belief values as well. You believe in the paranormal or you don't. You believe in ghosts or you don't. I can understand that in adults or even children and teenagers, but a little child of 3 years old, wow, that must have been very traumatic for her.
Yeah, I think so. But then again, maybe a child of that age doesn't even think this is something strange.
True.
PCs are all the time. He doesn't know yet that he's not supposed to be seeing those things, and maybe that's why he's seeing it.
What was the outcome of that case?
Well, it was kind of unsatisfying. We went back there several times, and we tried to help this family out as much as we could. But what happened was the father of the family actually passed away while we were in process of investigating, and they didn't want to stay there after that, and they moved out. So we actually lost access to the location too, because somebody else came in and for some strange reason didn't want people wandering around their house setting up equipment and talking to ghosts. So we haven't been back. I don't know. It's one that bothers me because, I always think that there's this little girl's spirit there that
Sure.
I wonder what's going to happen to her, and we can't really get back there to try to talk to her or anything.
Is it possible that the little girl's spirit went along with the family?
Well, it's possible. We kind of warned them against that, not to give any invitations
Sure.
or anything, because that's kind of asking for trouble. But we haven't heard from them, so I would think that if that had happened, we probably would have heard. But
No news
You
is
never
good
know.
news.
yeah, exactly.
All right, stand by. Michael, you and I have to take our first break. In X Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Michael Robartes, and he is the author of Rabbit Hole Experience. His website is www.rabbitholeexperience.com. And Michael and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, the X Chronicles newspaper is available for one and all with our compliments as it is each and every month at www.xchroniclesnewspaper.com. The X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. This is a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And we come to you Monday through Friday from midnight until 5 a.m. Eastern, right here from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Welcome back, everyone. Michael Robartes is my special guest, and Michael leads a scientific paranormal, a paranormal investigation team in the Atlantic Paranormal Society, or TAPS family network. His website is www.rabbitholeexperience.com. Michael, when you're doing a paranormal investigation, do you do it during the day? Do you do it during the evening, or is there a special time that you and your team would rather work?
There's probably times we would rather work, but the best time is whenever the people were having the experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when we go in, our goal, we want to, well, we have two goals. We want to try to figure out, first off, what they're actually experiencing and what's going on. And secondly, we want to try to help these people to come to terms with what it is either they've experienced or at least they think they've experienced. And to do either of those things, you need to be there under the conditions when the actual experiences were taking place. So most of the time that's at night. I really don't know why that is. There are theories about sidereal time or whatever else, but I think a lot of it just has to do with at night we've kind of quieted down. The lights are off. Things are a little bit spookier, and it's more of the time when people are going to notice things that they wouldn't notice otherwise. And so that's why the vast majority of the time we're going in at night. But we have had cases where people tell us at 2 in the afternoon they see something, and then we'll be there at 2 in the afternoon.
I would imagine that you and your team get a great number of calls from people who are disturbed about what they believe to be a paranormal experience. How do you and the rest of your team decide whether or not the case that has been reported to you actually warrants an investigation?
Well, we will spend a lot of time talking to the people before I actually decide that I'm going to get the team together and go out there. Of the cases that we take calls for, it's probably only, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20% that we will actually get together and go do an investigation. And it's really not a matter of whether I think we're going to find paranormal activity, because a lot of times, and I could be wrong in any case, but a lot of times we may go to a place where I don't necessarily think there's anything paranormal going on, but it's just that these people are so upset that I think that by us going there, we can sort of calm them down a little, maybe give them some peace of mind. And to me, if that's the case, then it's worth the trip, whether we come up with any evidence or not.
I agree with you, and my hat is off to you and your crew for doing that.
Thank you.
Based on your experience and the experience of your crew, is there any statistical analysis? For example, do more women or more men have paranormal experiences?
I don't know if there's a difference in how many they have. What I do know is the vast majority of calls that we get are from women. And I think a lot of that is just the fact that women are more willing to admit that they need help and call somebody. It's kind of the old thing about, the guy won't ask for directions.
Uh-huh. Geez, I can. Yeah. Let's just leave it at that. My wife says, "Thank God for the GPS, because now there's less arguments in the car."
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we don't get men calling us too often to ask us to come and do the case. It's usually the wife or the woman in the house.
What would be a red flag when you or your team are doing a pre-investigation conference with these people that whatever is going on has nothing to do with the paranormal?
Well, sometimes it's pretty obvious.
Yes, right.
For instance, one woman I remember called me one time, and thought there was a ghost because she was finding rubber bands all over the house. And I told her, your cat's doing it.
Yeah.
And then she stopped and she said, how did you know I had a cat? So, that one was kind of easy to figure out. But probably when you're having longer conversations, the biggest tip-off is when the story keeps changing. So we'll sort of go over the questions from different directions in different ways, but make them sort of repeat the story a few times. And if the story sort of keeps modifying, then that's usually an indication that, I don't know there may be something going on, but if somebody's doing that, then we're never going to be able to figure out what's going on because we're never going to get the real story,
It seems lately that a lot of the cases that are being reported by paranormal investigators, not all paranormal investigators, have a lot to do with demons and demonology. Are you finding this out yourself through your investigations, or is this some type of new hype that is coming out there?
I think it's people reacting to what they're seeing on TV. If you watch the TV shows, everything's a demon on the TV shows. And I think that sort of bleeds out so that when people do have legitimate experiences in their house, like no matter how mild it is, it's a demon because that's what they've seen on TV. That would be my guess. I mean, it's not that people don't have legitimate, I like to call them negative entity cases rather than use the demon term, but people have those experiences, but they're really pretty rare in my experience.
Besides doing ghost investigations, what type of paranormal investigations do you and your team investigate?
Well, with scientific paranormal, we mainly do the ghost investigations.
Right.
On the other hand, I investigate with my co-author, Paul Conroy. He is an investigator for the Bigfoot Field Researchers Associate, her organization. So,
BFRO?
He and I go out in the field and do those investigations. He takes those calls. We also, when we originally conceived the idea for this book, we wanted to get together with my friend Bob Canino, who was a UFO investigator in central New York. And the idea was for all three of us to sort of collaborate and compare cases. But unfortunately, Bob passed away early on in the writing of the book, so then it became more difficult to communicate with him. Not entirely,
sure,
a game breaker, but it's hard to match up with his schedule now.
Yeah, I would imagine so. When it comes to investigating Bigfoot, have you yourself have you had an experience with Bigfoot?
I have never seen one, and Paul has not either, and we talk about that in the book. But we have had a lot of strange experiences out in the field that make us wonder if something was going on. We've had times when we've heard sort of this strange murmuring that people talk about that sounds like voices when you know that there's nobody around. We've had like times when in dense woods we hear like some huge animal sort of run away and we can't get a look at what's going on. Paul's had things whistle back at him, stuff like that. And we've heard wood knocks and the usual things that you hear about with Bigfoot, but neither of us have ever seen one. We're hoping one day that we can change that.
Let me ask you a question. I'm sure you've been asked this 100 times or more, and I'm sure Paul has been asked this as well. If Bigfoot exists, how come we never see a body of a Bigfoot?
Yeah. Paul has a lot more complete answer to that than I do. My answer is, I don't know. To me, when people ask me, like, doesn't it seem like someone would have come across a body? I say, yeah, I agree. Does seem like it. All I can say is, from the other evidence that exists, the footprints, the hair samples, the recordings and video and everything else, I think there's a lot of evidence there to suggest the existence of these creatures. So why haven't we come across a body? I don't know. I don't know if we're going to know that until we actually find one. But
well, in your opinion, Michael, has the evidence been found that would, beyond a shadow of a doubt, prove that Bigfoot does exist?
Not beyond the shadow of a doubt, I wouldn't say. In the book, we talk about two different types of beliefs. We talk about the objective and subjective minds and how you can believe different things at each level. At the rational objective level, I think that the evidence is pretty strong. And if you ask me, do I believe these animals exist, I would say yes. But I've never seen one, so without that personal experience, I don't. If somehow we were able to prove that they didn't exist, I don't know how you would do that, but I guess I wouldn't be all that surprised by that either. I think we're probably not going to know until we find a body or something, but to be honest, even then, humans have such a capacity for rationalization. I don't know if a body was laying there in front of the Smithsonian, if that would even end the argument necessarily.
I hear you, my friend. Michael, please stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, Michael Robartes is our guest. www.rabbitholeexperience.com is his website, and he, along with Paul Conroy, are the authors of The Rabbit Hole Experience. This is the X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. We're coming to you around the world from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. I'll be back after the news. Don't go away.
From our broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond, you're watching the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God.
It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
Michael Robartes is my guest this hour, Exonation, www.rabbitholeexperience.com. He, along with Paul Conroy, are the authors of Rabbit Hole Experience. Michael, where is Rabbit Hole Experience available for sale?
This is up on Amazon. I believe it should be available in Canada as well.
Excellent.
People can also order it through their local bookstores as well.
Have you ever been convinced that you found paranormal activity and later on found out that you were wrong?
Yes.
Ooh.
I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong. There was a case I remember where one of the claims that the client had was that she kept hearing her name called, and her name was Beth.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to the audio the next day and came across this spot where I thought I heard the name Beth called in a really creepy way. And the way it was in the conversation, like nobody was really talking at the time. It was just sort of there. And I listened to it over and over, and I thought, that's what it's saying. I mean, it seems clear to me. And I sent it to one of my team members. Our procedure is if one of us comes across something in a recording, what we do is we just send the file out. We don't tell anybody what we think it says. It just,
Right.
Want to influence anybody, so we just send it out to the other team members and let them hear it. And my team member, Catherine, wrote back to me like very quickly and said, yeah, that was when we were looking for our flashlight, and I pointed to it and said, there. And when I listened to it again, it was absolutely clear to me that that's what it says. It says there. But it's just the way you perceive things, where if you've got something in your head, it sounds like that until somebody, tells you otherwise. So you got to be really careful about everything that when we're going through this evidence, we have to really check things out to make sure that we're not biasing it as much as possible.
So you have your own double-blind experience.
We do everything we can to
Right.
try to double check everything. I mean, we've got protocols we've developed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It's never going to be perfect. There's always subjectivity, but we
Sure.
do the best we can to not be jumping at conclusions or using stuff that's just some noise and thinking it sounds like a voice or anything like that.
Way to go. Listen, I understand that there have been strange happenings in your own house.
Yes, that is true.
Could you share them with us?
Well, the book opens with a story, which I put in there to kind of demonstrate both the way we approach these situations, and it's also a case where Paul sort of had an encounter with the spirit side of things, which is really not traditionally his bag. What happened was we were out in the field. We had been out for 4 days doing a Bigfoot investigation. And we came back to my cabin, and when we walked in, I rounded the corner, and sitting on my wood stove was a lit candle burning. Mm-hmm. And we started thinking about that. Now, Paul had slept in the room right next to that candle the night before we left, so he knows it wasn't on the night before we left. Even if it had been on somehow, it couldn't have burned for 4 days, like while we were gone.
Right.
So we were trying to figure out, could somebody have come in and actually lit it? But nobody knew we were away, and if they did, they wouldn't know when we were coming back. And they'd really only have a couple hours window for us to find it. So we just sort of went through the possibilities and couldn't really come up with a good explanation for how that had happened. And while we were standing there discussing it, we heard the screen door to my cabin open and then slam shut again. It's got kind of a loud slam when it shuts. And so we kind of thought, oh, well, maybe this is somebody coming in, somebody who lit the candle to explain it. And nobody came in. And so we walked over and there was nobody around. And so I don't have a good explanation for what went on there. It's a case where we sort of are in that gray area, but it was a case where Paul kind of seemed a little uncomfortable trying to fit this information into his beliefs because he wasn't quite sure. It's not that he didn't believe in spirits, but he had never really given it all that much thought, and now he kind of had to think about whether this was possible or how this could happen.
Well, sure, he is usually considering investigating Bigfoot, which is a big furry, kind of big thing, right. And you're the guy who's used to dealing with the transparent type. So
Sasquatches rarely walk into your apartment and light candles.
Well, there was that time I met a girl from McGill University, but that's another story. How would you prepare people for their very first encounter with the paranormal? Because I'm sure that very first encounter can be traumatic, and yet there are those people who would love to have one. How would you suggest they prepare themselves for what may be around that corner?
Yeah, there's actually both types of people. We have people on my team who have been investigating with us for years and have never had a real solid paranormal experience and are just, dying to have something happen. And then there's other people who would really prefer that this didn't happen. And a lot of our clients fall into that category. I don't know that you can prepare necessarily. Probably your best defense is just to be as open-minded as possible so that when it does happen, it won't cause so much damage because you sort of have that flexibility to say, okay, well, I didn't think that was true, but, maybe I was wrong. And I think that's one of the benefits of doing this work. Over the years, I've really come to that position. People will tell me stories that I think are absolutely nuts, but I always kind of say, well, who am I to say? For all I know, it might be true.
All right, so how would somebody who's had a traumatic paranormal experience, how would you give them guidance on how to heal?
Well, at least for the immediate impact, you want to make sure that they can get away from the experience and sort of separate themselves from it. So, if it was an ongoing case or something, we would want to get them the help so that they could remedy the situation. As far as the impact going down the road, we are happy to work with people. Obviously, we are not psychologists or anything, so we would certainly refer them to people for that kind of thing. But I think it's also valuable to have somebody who accepts that these experiences are real and isn't going to question that you're crazy or anything, and can give you that sort of viewpoint of sort of saying, yes, these things go on, but you know what? It's not only not the end of the world, but it makes the world more interesting. Sure. It's a lot bigger world than you used to live in.
Now, what makes your approach scientific, and I'm putting that in air quotations, compared to others?
Well, it probably should be in air quotations. Our group is called Scientific Paranormal, but let me just say that I didn't name the group. I joined an existing group, and had I started my own group, I probably wouldn't use that term just because, sort of puts crosshairs on your back. But we do try to be as scientific as we can. When we go into a case, the approach that we take is we go in assuming that there is no paranormal activity going on, and then we are trying to evaluate the evidence that we gather under that sort of null hypothesis. So it's not, people think like taking a scientific approach means having all the gadgets and all of that, but really it's more of a state of mind of how you approach it. What I find interesting is skeptics who will tend to, of course, tout themselves as being the ones who are scientific. To me, they often take a non-scientific approach because a lot of times they go in under the assumption that they already know that there's no activity, and no matter what happens, they're not going to let go of that assumption. If you're taking a scientific approach, when evidence comes in, if the evidence is strong enough, you need to reject that assumption that you went in with. And if you're never willing to reject that under any circumstances, then to me, that's not a scientific approach either.
From the time your team enters an investigation zone until the time it leaves, what time frame are you looking at in general?
Well, it varies a lot by case. A lot of the time, it might be 5, 6, 7 hours, something like that.
That's a lot of time.
It's a lot of footage to go
That's
through.
right.
That is what it is.
Then there's the video footage and audio footage that you have to go through afterwards. All right, Michael, please stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this segment. In Exonation, our guest this hour is Michael Robartes. He leads Scientific Paranormal, a paranormal investigation team in the Atlantic Paranormal Society TAPS family network. His website is, got your pencils ready, rabbitholeexperience.com, and he, along with Paul Conroy, are the authors of Rabbit Hole Experience. And we'll be back on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour. Well, thank you very much, Craig. If I was asleep, I'm wide awake now. I'm sure the rest of the listening audience is too. We'll be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. www.xzbn.net is the website for the X Zone Broadcast Network, and for all things X Zone Radio, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Don't go away.
Watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomena, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free
1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Welcome back, everyone. Michael Robartes is our guest. He, along with Paul Conroy, are the authors of Rabbit Hole Experience, and their website is rabbitholeexperience.com. As I said to you during the commercial break, Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show. Great pleasure talking to you. Hope that we have the pleasure of talking to you in the near future. But let me just try and understand, and maybe you can help me. Where do you think paranormal investigation is, or the art of the science of paranormal investigation is today, and where do you see it going in the future?
Well, we're kind of at a turning point, I think. We had the years of Ghost Hunters and these other TV shows, and that was kind of brought in an era of this approach of using the high-tech equipment to try to capture evidence of the paranormal. But it seems to me like we're kind of at the end of that. I mean, it's not that evidence is still valuable, like in individual cases, but it's valuable so that we can figure out what's going on for the clients that we're working with. But as far as putting another EVP up on a website and, another video of a spirit or something, I just don't know how much value that adds at this point. I think we're at a point where there are people who have had their own experiences who don't need any more proof, and there are skeptics who are never going to believe it regardless of what you do. So I think it's kind of time to maybe turn away from worrying about gathering more evidence and think more about helping the people involved and thinking about like the fact that we have had these experiences over all of the years that humans have been walking around.
Sure.
What does that mean for us, rather than like trying to have some obsession about whether we can prove it scientifically or not.
Why do you think that these spirits or these ghosts are intelligent? Do they have the ability to understand, comprehend what it is that paranormal investigators are trying to do?
You mean like maybe they run and hide when we walk in the building, that kind of thing?
Or maybe they actually try in their own unaudible way to communicate with you, to say, get the hell out, leave us alone.
Sometimes they do, yeah. I think it depends on the case. I think that there are definitely, sometimes you go in and I think a lot of times what we're picking up is just sort of residual energy of events that happened, and that's not going to try to communicate with you. It's just sort of there. But I think that there definitely are cases where there are conscious spirits with intention that are trying to communicate. A good example of that is a case that we talk about in the book, where we caught some of the best video evidence that our team has ever caught. We had set up a camera on a tripod, a full-size, chest-level tripod, and focused it on this staircase to try to catch an apparition that people had seen. And then we all left the building. So the entire building was empty. There was nobody there. And another camera that we had covering the room had caught on video our whole tripod sliding across the floor. And when I thought about that later, when you watch that DVR footage, it's kind of grainy and doesn't have any sound, and like a lot of things could move in that place and we'd probably never know the difference. But the fact that it did it to our camera on the tripod, it's almost like it was intentionally moving something that we would be sure to see. It has the feel to me of something really trying to get our attention and let us know it was there. So sometimes you catch stuff like that where it just seems like, yeah, there's really somebody there just trying to get somebody's attention, trying to let somebody know that they're there. And that seems to be only probably a small proportion of cases that we go to where we actually capture evidence of some sort of paranormal activity. But in those cases, most of the time, it just seems to be that, like a spirit trying to get somebody's attention.
In locations like Waverly Hills and other places that are well known throughout the paranormal community for the activity that is there, why do these spirits continue to stay if, in fact, the location has become a hotspot for paranormal investigators?
Yeah, it's a good question. That kind of stuff tends to bother me a little bit because if there are actual spirits there, it just, to me, like, to set it up kind of like a petting zoo, like, come in and make them do tricks is,
exactly.
It really kind of troubles me, that approach. But you're right. Why would they stay there? I don't know. I mean, it could be that they're picking up residual activity, in which case it's not going to move.
Sure.
If there are active spirits there, maybe they're just for some reason tied to the place. Maybe they're not even aware of the people coming in. If they're sort of, I don't know, lost in their memories of what used to go on there. Maybe they're not even aware of it. I don't know.
There seems to be more questions than answers.
It certainly does.
It seems that there's a new breed of paranormal investigator that has risen its ugly head out there, and that's the type that is very disrespectful. That's the type that goes out there, taunts, yells at, and basically edges on the spirits. Your take?
Yeah, it's terrible. They call it provoking sometimes, and it's kind of, the theory behind it is that that's going to make you more likely to capture evidence. But then we have to ask, should the goal really be to capture evidence, or, is the goal to treat the spirits respectfully and help the people involved? The only times our team has ever really done that is in a location where we go in and there's disturbing stuff going on, like spirits actually hurting people. And we go in and we're not capturing anything, and we know that when we leave, these things are going to come out. So we might try to
egg them on.
Yeah, tick them off and get them to come out while we're there rather than the people involved.
But this is not your normal way of operating, though.
No. I mean, to me, that's really it's a form of showing your fear, is what it is. If somebody's going into a place where they don't actually see anybody around and yelling and screaming and saying, "Come and get me," it's just covering fear.
Right.
I mean, that could be somebody's deceased grandmother yet that you're yelling at and telling her to come and fight you. That's just absurd.
Is there any evidence you can offer skeptics about Bigfoot, ghosts, and other paranormal activity that they would look at and that they would take as evidence?
Well, the whole idea of this book, The Rabbit Hole Experience, we discuss what we think is needed for that to happen. And I've come to the conclusion that what's really needed is a personal experience. I think that any evidence, no matter how strong it is, outside of the context of having a personal experience is really not going to be convincing. I've had videos shown to me by friends of mine who I completely trust, and it appears to show a Bigfoot, but I still can't say that I 100% believe in it. And I know that sounds like a contradiction. Like, how can you say you think this footage is real and then not believe in Bigfoot? But it's just a difference of, what do I mean when I say I believe? I just don't think that any evidence, any secondhand evidence, if somebody wasn't there and captured it themselves, is ever going to convince anybody of anything.
And what is your opinion on the Patterson-Gimlin film?
That's an interesting one. The most controversial film ever, I guess, right? I've always been kind of on the fence about it. But recently, a couple years ago, a book came out by a guy named Bill Munns, who actually spent his career in Hollywood designing creature costumes for movies. So if anybody would be able to analyze it, I would think he would. And he goes through, the book's like 400 pages long or something. And he goes through it frame by frame and comes to the conclusion that there's just nothing about this that is consistent with a hoax. And to me, the ball is now in the court of skeptics to refute this argument. But the weird thing is I haven't heard anybody even talk about it. So I don't know why that is. Yeah. But I'm pretty convinced that I think the footage is authentic. But, again, like I said earlier, if somebody were to come out with evidence and show me that it's not, I would say, all right, well, I was wrong. But at this point, it seems to me pretty strong that it's authentic.
Michael, as always, when I'm enjoying a guest, time goes by so fast. I want to thank you so much for joining us, and let our listeners know how they can find out more about you and where they can get your book again.
Well, the book's available on Amazon. It's called The Rabbit Hole Experience. People can reach us on our website, which is rabbitholeexperience, all one word.com. We're also on Facebook at The Rabbit Hole Experience, so they can find us there too.
All right, Michael Robartes, thank you so much for joining us. Take care of yourself, and I look forward to the next time you and I meet right here in the X Zone. Take care of yourself.
Thanks a lot, Rob.
X Zone Nation, Michael Robartes has been my guest once again. He, along with Paul Conroy, are the authors of Rabbit Hole Experience, their website, rabbitholeexperience.com. And I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomena, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.